I'm a private citizen. I have a nonprofit company that I chair. I don't take a salary from it. I raise money for kids in Africa. My son, we adopted from Africa and made a promise to him that we would take care of the orphans left behind. We adopted him from a small orphanage in Rwanda and made a promise we'd take care of all of his earliest friends. So I chaired we started a nonprofit that raises money and pays school fees for orphans in Rwanda. So that's my nonprofit venture. That's the fun part of life and the inspiration for actually considering just running in Congress in the 7th District.
Well, how do you pay the bills?
I pay the bills. I have a for-profit company. It's concert and music promotion. We have a lot of family entertainment and Christian music shows that usually come through town, Pepsi Center, etc., smaller venues as well. Most of those shows that come through town have our name on it, whether we co-promote, whether we do it ourselves, co-promote with AEG, Live Nation, Christian and family entertainment events.
Give me like 3 examples just so we have an idea of what
we've done an event at the Pepsi Center called the God and Country Family Event. That was an event that was at the Pepsi Center. It had a mix of Clay Walker for country, a bunch of Christian people. Ann Coulter, Senator Zell Miller was the speaker. We were a promoter of that. Christian concerts, artists like Newsboys, Chris Tomlin, Third Day, Mercy Me, usually larger, not always, but usually some of the larger selling acts. So it's a music and promotion company. That's how I pay the bills.
How old is your son now?
My son is now 5. He just turned 5 on Friday.
Is he the only? Do you have more children? Is that your only?
He's my only son.
That's a good story.
Yeah, thank you. That's my son. He was found when he was approximately. This is a great story. He was about 2 days old, 3 days old. They don't know. His umbilical cord was still scabbed over, and he was found abandoned on the side of the road at 11 o'clock at night in a ditch in Rwanda in a rainstorm. And a lady found him and eventually got him to an orphanage, and we found him when he was about 2 years old, and we went through a 2-year adoption process to get him here.
Did you have to go to Africa to do that?
Yeah, I go there now through this whole process. We were there through another chain of events, but now I go at least once a year to look at the opportunities we have for orphans. We're looking now to expand it to Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, of course Rwanda. After the genocide, Rwanda has the highest per capita, from what everyone knows, the highest per capita of orphans in the world because of the HIV crisis and, of course, because of the genocide in '94.
What made you start your own nonprofit as opposed to partnering with an existing larger organization?
We had, first of all, overhead. We don't have overhead. We have some. I mean, you have mailing and stuff like that. But we already had a nonprofit. We did conferences, events, and we used to do our concert planning and event planning through a nonprofit because a lot of it was Christian-based. So we did it through the nonprofit, and I started that, but I shifted that to a for-profit entity, and I shifted the nonprofit to focus in Africa. And because of that, there's other organizations that do good work, but we don't have near the overhead those people do. Somebody gives us a donation or a gift or a grant or anything for a kid in Africa, by and large, our overhead is a fraction of a percentage.
Is it a webpage? How do people learn about it?
Rivers, RIVER, that's my son, riverspromise.com. We made a promise to my son, River, and that's it, riverspromise.com.
So is the main goal to send resources to Rwandan adults to buy the goods and services they need and do the training, or is the main goal to literally buy stuff and ship it over there?
No, we don't ship. We never ship anything. We buy everything locally. Even if we've gone over there, it's not. Even if I personally have gone over there and bought clothes, we always buy it local because we may be able to donate a T-shirt, but there's a vendor on the street that's selling a T-shirt that helps their local economy. When we go over there, we have contacts on the ground. We don't even give money anymore to the direct orphanage. We go to it's a public school system, but they still have to pay school fees. It's $1.93 a week to send a kid to school. That pays their uniform, their books, and their school fees, their tuition, even though it's a public school system. And we now pay that directly to the school system. So we void as much risk as possible of any of that money being used for anyone else.
So do you have some kind of estimate, the resources devoted to education, training, or versus physical needs such as clothing, food?
Most of the stuff, our primary goal is education. The only other projects in 2010, we're going into an agricultural project. There's an orphanage, it's actually the orphanage my son came from, that the kids, it's not gross malnutrition, but it is still malnutrition. It's not like they have flies and bloated bellies, but in the long term, they're malnourished. And so we're actually, in 2010, working on raising the funds for an agricultural project where we have a small plot of land where they can food their own crops. We're looking at rabbits and some other small agricultural items, and that's one of our projects in 2010. But another project that we did was when I got my son, I realized they had never shown me where he slept. And in 2009, we started actually buying beds. We found out a lot of orphans were actually sleeping, and my son was one of them, on bare concrete floors. No blankets, no pillows, no anything. And so we, this year, have purchased for his orphanage, and now we're working on other orphanages going, do you have beds for the kids? Because we can send them to school, but if they're not eating well and they're not sleeping well, it's most of them are clothed. We're not running. We don't have naked kids running around. When I go back in early 2010, we're planning a trip. We're supposed to go to some more rural areas where I'm told that there's actual kids who have no clothes. And we'll look at clothing projects. But for now, where we're focused on is actually schooling. But if they need beds, we're going to do our best. Schooling is our top priority. If we can buy them a bed, we'll buy them a bed if they need it. And then we have the agricultural projects. So we don't get into a lot of food or clothing. We don't do that. We will, perhaps, if needed.
So obviously a lot of Americans adopt from other countries, Asia, South America. How did your particular interest in that Rwanda regions develop?
I attended a church where a gentleman who was a Rwandan native was actually there kind of interning or studying. And
here locally?
Here in Boulder. Okay. He was up in Boulder.
Which one?
It's called Vine Life Church in Longmont, Boulder area. And we attended a church up there, and he just became a good friend and a very trusted resource. I would trust this man with my own personal bank account. That's how much I trust him.
Is he here now, or is he?
No, he's back in Rwanda. He could have stayed here, but he went back. He says my Africans are very continental centric, if you will. He says my continent needs help, my country needs help, and he's back in Rwanda, and he has an organization that he never went back and started his own church. He started a charity organization in Africa, and we partner with him a lot, but it's not he's not our only one. We have other people, but it's all relational. And Rwanda was just simply the starting point because we had a contact. We had a resource that we trusted. And that's very important in these countries because, a lot of people have needs, and we want to make sure that when people give, that it actually goes to the need. And I would trust Willie with my own bank account, this gentleman.
Are you still involved with that same church?
Not really. I'm good friends with them, but I don't live up there anymore.